So may I call upon JK, the other panelist, to come and have a seat here. JK, a very interesting entrepreneur, JK. For those of you who follow the World Cup in cricket, JK was the CEO, the first CEO of the Deccan Chargers team, which alas no longer exists. So we have a very interesting person in that sense. Before that, he was a B.Tech from IIT Madras. He also did his MBA from IIM Calcutta. He's worked in a few companies before that, after that. And then he also is a serial entrepreneur. He sold his last company, Netlink Technologies, to Deccan Chronicle. And then he's on to his next venture, Unimity Solutions. So JK has seen a wide variety of things. Corporate life, entrepreneurial life, run a sports team, plus he's been active in Rotary. He was also Vice President of TiE Chennai for quite some time. He was also TiECon, our flagship conference chair, for 2 years. So he brings to the table, which I removed just now, a lot of experience in building teams. Now, team building is quite a challenge for a lot of people. Getting another person, there's a very beautiful TED video, those of you who are interested, that the real thing in leadership is actually not leadership, it's followership. You become a leader, you can say, when you get your first follower. So to get that first guy to follow your passion, your dream, is actually the biggest challenge for an entrepreneur. So what we're going to try and focus on here is, especially for early stage companies, is how do you first get the first set of co-founders, people who can kind of be with you in your journey. Then the next key people who make up your entrepreneurial or your team of employees. Because they don't share the purpose that you have for your company, how will you build a company? So I'm just going to wait for Ravi to kind of step into the picture, because Ravi comes with a different background, but he also has shared some of the same diseases that AK and I share, which is this MBA business. He's also from IIT Madras. So we call all these guys IIT Madras, IIM types, the twice distilled guys. They've gone through 2 entrance exams, and thereafter they have been distilled through 2 processes. Ravi today works as a coach and advisor to many companies, especially startups. So he's a leadership coach. He's also a guest faculty at IIT Madras, IIM Calcutta. He has been the MD and CEO of very interesting companies of Hindustan Motors and Mitsubishi. He has been the MD and CEO of that. He's also been on the other end of the spectrum. He's been the MD and CEO of Mahindra Holidays and Resorts. So you can go in your Mitsubishi Lancer to a Mahindra Holiday Resort. Both are properties that Ravi has helped create. Okay, and he's also been involved in higher education. He's the chairman, board of governors of the NIT, the National Institute of Technology. He's also the member of an advisory board of the Rajagiri Center for Business Studies in Cochin. Plus, he's also very active in the Yachting Association of India. So he's been recognized also for all of that. So right now he helps startups, CEOs, CXOs in growing themselves and growing their businesses. He also has an excellent track record in turning around businesses. So we'll wait for Ravi to come. I hope he'll come. But before that, JK, you run a team like Deccan Chargers. The first year saw you guys getting the wooden spoon. And can you walk us through this process of managing those fragile yet very ambitious egos, which are sports people and little demigods in India called cricketers?
Good evening. Thanks, Nandu, for the gracious words of introduction. First, I don't know whether we all have distilled wisdom or only what is left over. So I'm not sure whether you're talking of remnants or whether you're talking of distilled wisdom. Specifically, even before we start this conversation, I want to know how many of us here have organizations where there are less than 50 people. Less than 10.
Zero?
Yeah, one man. Yeah, I really think that's where the whole thing starts. One man. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Come.
Very favorable.
Okay. Before JK gets off
even before that. So what we were saying is, you know how difficult it is to build a team right now. Chandu, you're saying how difficult it is to build a team. Exactly, so the internet side. So, at the time, just to brief you, quite a few, even less than 10 people in size. A few of them, one man started up now. Almost all less than 50 people as a company size. Am I right in that? That's how it is. So Chandu, your question was about IPL and managing high ego. I actually think it was a very exciting assignment that I had. It was a terrific, wonderful opportunity to even shake hands with those high egos. Managing those is a later part. But I found that each one of them, they were true professionals. They didn't carry their egos onto the field or in what they had to do. And they were very comfortable working with the captain, working with the coach, and to make sure that as professionals, they deliver whatever best they can deliver. That's my
Okay, JK, what we'll do is we'll follow the reason I removed this table is to make it a little more engaging. See the people, otherwise you see only one third of the person or 1/4 of the person. So I didn't want the tip of the iceberg to kind of camouflage the rest of it. So I said, let's have the whole 9 yards out here, So what I really request is, JK, if you can give a few minutes, given your experiences, how easy was it to convince somebody else of your idea when you started a couple of these businesses? You've also been part of the founding teams of companies earlier with Pradeep Kar and all that. Can you just walk us through some of that and how easy or difficult it was to build the team, get others excited about your idea?
I've been in quite a few startups, and in many, like most of you, the first is about the dream that each one of us is chasing. I was also part of the just concluded session where each one of us was looking at, hey, can we raise money? Would somebody fund us? Or should we be on our own? Is it bootstrapped mode and is it bootstrapped mode for quite some time? I think this is all part of being an entrepreneur. So, like it happened in the earlier panel, we found that funds are difficult to get. We found that funds I can get only if I have collateral. And then later only others will invest. I wouldn't say the same about people. I wouldn't say that people are as difficult to get as funds. It's not so at all. And I think people are far, far easier for us to get. If you say in building up this, one side is you're looking for funds, but the other side is people. I think people much easier to get. People join us, I think like Chandu very rightly said, for us to be a leader, there will be a follower. Forget whether it's a follower or not, somebody even walking along with us. Let's not say follower, but even with us. I think it's much easier to convince people if the passion that we have is very clear. And I think there's no dearth of people. Amongst each one of our circles, we have classmates, we have friends, we have family, we have seniors, juniors. I'm sure each one of us have our own circle. It's always possible to see if people will come along with us. So my first thing to you, Chandu, is that in all these ventures, we found sometimes it was colleagues who were working together, we decided that we'll move together. Because sometimes people who we either knew earlier, part of an alumni, part of some friends, and it was a little easy. So I think getting those first few people who believe either in us or who can believe along with us certainly is possible if we put in that right.
Ravi, I mean, what you can perhaps do, because you've run very large companies too, you've also turned around companies, today you work as a leadership coach. When you look at people today and you look at what changes have happened over the last so many years, can you just, in your going back, drawing upon your experiences, what are the kind of things that you've learned from your experiences in creating, building and managing people? can just spend a few minutes and then we can perhaps take some questions after that from the folks out here.
It's relatively easier to get people to walk along with you. I've just had a caveat to that. It's easier to get people to walk along with you, provided, one, you genuinely value them. Two, you make that effort. The effort may be a little less if he's an old associate or a friend, but you have to make an effort. Like you do a financial plan, you have to say how much time am I going to invest in getting people to walk along with me. So it requires a conscious effort. Just because you have a fine idea, maybe it's one of the finest ideas going, don't assume others will accept it and walk along. Second, on a related vein, JK also spoke of dream and getting people to walk along with you. Just as you have dreams, other people do have dreams. Some ways, when you're able to share your dreams, you're also able to get others to share it. So somewhere along, at a higher level, there is a connect. So even if he's a low-skilled person working in your team, he also has his own. What the dream is, it will vary from individual. We need to be respectful, we need to value them for the fact that they are willing to walk along with us. And if you're able to relate to them at that level, then it works. What happens in large organizations? See, people are the same, whether you're a 20-person outfit, 200-person outfit, 200,000-person outfit. For example, TCS today is close to 300,000 people. Whatever you are, however big, small you are, people are fundamentally the same. The basic needs tend to remain. So the need for inclusion, the need for being valued, the need for respect remains here. But in larger organizations, an additional complication kicks in. That is called departmental terms. Then you also have badges. Somebody is called assistant manager, somebody is called manager, somebody is called senior manager, somebody is called general manager. So each of these departmental walls become a barrier, and each of these steps in the hierarchy become a barrier. And many large companies today, for example TCS, has an intranet where everybody communicates with everybody without the designation being mentioned. So there are challenges, but organizations which make a special effort to overcome the challenges, they generally are able to.
Okay, let me just take you on to this thing about building this company. Okay? I mean, this is my standard thing that a man, people say, is known by the company he keeps. But to build a business, it's by the people that you know. And thereafter, I think a man gets to be known by the company that he builds. So if you take this as the premise, one of the big things is this concept of shared values and creating a culture. Now, do you go about doing this from day one, or is it kind of premature? What's your experience? And then I'll ask JK to kind of add on to that.
I think you, when you used two words, shared values, you have a value, I have a value. And we two are walking along together. We share one another's value. And over a period of time, in the context of the enterprise, both of us believe this is the way to build an enterprise. And this is how we two need to work together to build an enterprise. Now, that shared value cannot happen like that. It takes a lot of interaction between people. You used another term, culture. Culture is really collective ethos, which emerges again from your values. So when you build shared values, you automatically build a certain culture in an organization where you say, I will work like that, I will do things. Can I answer your question? Or?
What I'm trying to get at is for a young entrepreneur or fellow who's starting up, he hears these words, I've also heard these words, and they say, like, for example, do you pay a price or not? Is that a value that I take from day one? Or can I have the luxury of values only after I grow, when I reach, say, 4-5 crores? Is it something post facto after building a business, or does it happen something that I consciously create while from the very start?
I'll give you a simple example. You know, at a fruit shop, there's a particular fruit shop that I go to, and I buy apples. These days, you get apples with stickers, am I right? Now in one shop, what I found was, every time I peeled off the sticker, I found some defect. Now, it's somebody buying apples from wherever in the world, or Kashmir or Ooty or whatever, and he's then putting stickers and calling it a brand and selling it, right? It's a small enterprise. What do you think is the shared value between the employee putting the sticker and the entrepreneur running that little branded apple business? There is another brand of apples where I don't find this common. There is a third brand of apples where they put each apple in a little, that little netting, what do you call that? Thermocol netting, right? And they provide it. Do you think all the three organizations are nothing but people buying apple in wholesale, putting a sticker and selling? But do you think the shared values in each of the three apple businesses are the same? What's the difference?
The first option is both communicating to each other. Then let's make as much as money possible. Second option is saying like let's serve the customer better by not providing the price. But I am not able to differentiate between the second and third because maybe I have not understood what you
The third actually puts a net. I think the lady here is familiar with that net. They put a thermocol netting to prevent the apple from getting damaged in transportation. Now, this is the point. The shared values in the organization are not some fuzzy thing which is in the air. It shows up to the customer in some way or the other. This is just the point that I would like to make. So when we talk shared values, don't look at it as something theoretical, meant to be looked at after your business becomes successful. Even if you are an apple trader trying to get a little more money by branding the apple in Chennai, and you're buying it in bulk from Kashmir and Ooty and selling it here, even if that's your business, the shared values.
JK, I think it's very vital that you talk about creating the sense of it from especially one critical set of individuals in the beginning, this co-founder creature, which a lot of us want to have but are also scared of having, correct? Something like marriage. You don't know what you're getting into, but you get into it nevertheless.
Well, I'm not too sure if a co-founder can be found on BharatNet. I think co-founder in all the things that we have had our own experience has been people with whom I already had that kind. It wasn't a complete third party stranger whom I evaluated and said, okay, can co-partner. I don't think so. That was later when it was an investor, then it is a completely different transaction. But as partners, most of the ventures that we have had multiple people. But we already had a relationship, we already had that connect, we already knew each other inside out in all our aspects. And there were many times where we were forced on knowing that we were different. And that's, I think, is another important component. I really say, Chandu, to me, that when we look for somebody to come along with us, if it is a co-promoter, as far as possible, different in some way. I'm a believer in, different ways teams work. We've all seen a football match, for example. Do you think a football team which completely consists of excellent forwards can make a good team? If all of them are fullbacks, nothing can get beyond them, but all are fullbacks. All are goalkeepers, not possible. So we need that different skills. And I think that's equally important, therefore, if even amongst co-promoters, even as a personality, if we are different, but we know each other, we know, like Ravi said, at a value system level, we are aligned. But in our skill sets or in our personalities, if we are different, I think that's also important. And we're not just thinking the same way. That we are equally able to question each other, have our differences, but those differences are what really build strength.
I must take you up on that a little bit. John Rockefeller, one of my quotations which have influenced me, fellow said, a very rich fellow, now dead. So that fellow said, a friendship founded on business is better than a business founded on friendship. Is the proposition that he made. Now, is that true really of an American kind of a culture or an Indian high context culture? Do you think the situation will be quite different? Let me just follow up, with you on that.
I wouldn't like to generalize, Chandu, and say either this works or that works. So I don't think in these sorts of things you can say only that works. It's like a marriage. You really can't say whether love marriage works or in marriage works or what. It works because people make it work. All I'm saying is that you can find those schemes rather quickly when it is amongst known set, as opposed to trying to find this individual or co-promoter somewhere outside.
Now, if you were to tell these people here, I'm sure, how many of you are looking for co-founders, somebody to share your journey with? How many? So about 7-8 of you. What are the 3-4 things that you might tell them?
Is it co-founder with co-investment, or is it only co-founder who can come along more for execution? Co-founder with co-investment? Execution. You can definitely find much easier. I would say that if it is co-founder with co-investment, then that has got its own additional challenges. Amongst your circle, is there anybody you feel would be the right person? Because then it's only a question of sharing this and selling this proposition to somebody. So I would say it's like any sale. I think as leaders, our fundamental responsibility and that ability is an ability to sell. It is a sell my dream, my vision, my product, my company. But that is part of it. So I would say, do you have a prospect list? I feel these 5 people would be the best for me. Form that. Go after it like you would go after trying to get your first sale. So first say, hey, these 5 people potentially in some way, whatever, it's not parameters or not that you need to rank. Say these, whatever it is, I feel, hey, these people, if they can come along, that will be great for me. Form that list. So, sell what you need to sell. Then people will share, like Ravi clearly said, each one will come back with saying, hey, this is my thing or my concern or my this, my that. You will come with solutions on how you address that. But you're clear, this person is the best person. So first form that short list of people from your circle. Then you go and make a pitch.
Ravi, in the previous session, one of the things that somebody talked about was this mindset of not wanting to give up control or equity even, sharing, And he said it's a part of his value system in his cultural baggage or whatever. Now again, when you build a team of co-founders or senior managers, while you're trying to build, isn't there a sense of giving up also in some sense, or are you strengthening yourself? I think, when I look back at myself as a young entrepreneur, I felt a little afraid sometimes, wanting to give up part control, part, what should I say, that leadership role. I was getting a little scared of it. What would you tell these entrepreneurs here,
Control is necessary. Like brakes in a car. But control is not the car. Contribution, either in the form of, like KK said, selling ideas or selling your product, or contribution in the form of readiness, contribution in the form of creativity. Art is the real car. You need control, yes. It's smart to start an enterprise without clarity on control, not at all. But control cannot be the overriding. What is of great importance as to contribution? I'll give you a very simple example, and this relates to an entrepreneur in Chennai. He started in 90 or 91. 96, he gave away 40% of his business for a song because he needed the additional equity. And the equity was a very small amount in terms of tens of lakhs for all that he did. In 2001, he exited with a 60%. Thousands of crores. So I asked him, hey, do you ever regret giving away that 40% for tens of lakhs when you could have actually, when you got for your 60%, thousands of crores? He said, no, not really. If at that time I had not got those tens of lakhs, then subsequently I would not have been able to create a business with that. So I think you as the entrepreneur need to take the call. As long as your dream vision is getting fulfilled, don't worry too much. If your dream vision is not getting fulfilled and somebody is going to come and take you away in a completely different direction, then even if you get thousands of crores in the beginning, you may lose. So that's therefore contribution you can do to the business.
Okay, we have about half an hour left, so I'm pretty sure you'll have quite a few questions on creating a team, building a team, and keeping the team. There are three things out here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and Suchinta and Jigar are there at the back with the mics. You can just, I'll just make sure that they come across to you. So anybody with any questions, feel free to raise your hand and we can get going.
My name is Vishwanathan. It's the early stage. I'm getting into a new venture. It's this question which was in the previous session, like how do we work on the numbers? How do we split? Because I've spent about 12 years totally in this field, or predominantly last 3 years into this. I'm actually adding up a new co-founder who's kind of joining me the journey. So how do I work out? I know it's a like personalized thing, but still, how do I work out that? Is there anything that I work out, like valuation or something like that?
I don't think we should handle it in this panel. We'll still focus more on the people related aspects, but that's a separate question. We'll take it outside of this meeting.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Vinod. I'm into MSME consulting as well as web applications for business process optimization. My question is how to convince the team, how to share the profits and convince the team they are given the correct ratio of the profits. They are shared with the correct ratio of the profits. Because it's always like they don't share the vision most of the time. They don't share the vision and they just wanted to take the most of the profit to themselves.
So basically talking about
like
transparency of how they get a share of the incentive or the
Correct.
share of the profit of the enterprise,
Correct.
right?
It depends. Are they Are they co-investors or you are the only investor?
I'm the only investor, and I'm the only full-time.
Got it. So I'll first give you a basic principle, then you will get the answer. The risk is yours. Do they get a salary, or they are all on? They get no salary, and only if revenue comes they get a share.
Only the revenue share.
So no, none of them get a salary.
Yeah, correct.
Then it's different. Then as much as you have taken a risk, they have taken a risk. If they are salaried people who are with you, and then you still wish to share something, then there are clear incentive structures because the risk is yours. If the risk is equally theirs, but you have put in a financial risk which is a higher in terms of an investment, you have to come up with a proportion that is equal.
Okay, that brings me to a question. Just let me add to that. One of the key things in all this is this creation of transparency. Okay, but the classic Modalali Torilali, this owner-employee relationship in India, this more feudal thing, is only the Modalali should keep all the information with himself, and he shall distribute information when required as much as is required. Do you think that still works in today's businesses? No? What would you say, Ravi? Because you handle traditional Birla type business of Hindustan Motors and something like holiday resort.
First is this Mudalali, Torilali logic. I don't think it's going to fly with young people anymore. That's point number one. He gave an example where he's got people purely on revenue sharing. The guy who's on revenue sharing is a Mudalali himself, in some sense. So I think that's point number one. Two is, see, for a long time, many of you here are very young, compared to people like me and JK. Actually, you're also young, right? This country just didn't have cash. In 1967, our Prime Minister came on National Network Radio, there was no television, and requested everybody to skip one meal because the country wasn't producing enough food. And people appreciated the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister were to do it today, you would get butchered. So we were a country acutely short of cash. And therefore, if you were putting in cash, you had a disproportionately large sale. I think that is the origin of the Mudalali Torilali concept. Today, when we are a relatively more resourceful country, this Mudalali Torilali paradigm no longer applies. And as we become more and more prosperous, it's going to work less and less. There is no alternative. If you want somebody, Chandu's talked about not just getting people to walk along with you, but walk along with you for a long period of time, stay with you. There is no alternative to building that connect of shared values, where he knows you value him for the unique strengths that he brings, and he values you because you are giving him an opportunity to exercise that unique strength. Then the relationship works. Otherwise, Rally I think is a goner.
So you, JK, you seem to say something.
Yeah, I agree with what Ravi says, but I want to take another aspect. It's not about this. I think he shared something which is what it is now. But in all our minds, whenever we say people, there's also this feeling that if only I had the best of me. If only I had the best of me. Am I right? If only I had the best. Then if only I had the best of people also means if only I had the ability to pay for the best. So that all these go together. I mean, all of us being in that stage where we are building our business. With the financial challenges which are continuous in how we are building our businesses. If only we had the best of people, means there's a cost attached. Alright. So I want to give it a little twist. Rather than getting the best of people, is it possible to get the best out of people? if it is possible to get the best out of people, then only our leadership qualities are really coming to the fore. So look for trying to get the best out of people. That will automatically give us an ability to move to those next levels of either execution or next levels of growth.
You had a question here?
My question is about core competencies for the founders or co-founders. Most of the people here are people who started their own businesses, and when they started, they tended to do a lot of things themselves: the administration, sales, marketing, product management, and all that. So now we have added a few employees. I also work with a few consultants. What do you think? What is your advice as to what things that the founder of the core group should continue to do? At what point should they divest of some of these things? And so, what is your advice in this sense?
If you want to go first, last.
I've been in many situations where the core team, I used to say, I remember in earlier companies where people will say, hey, how big is your team? I'll say, I'm a one-man team. I'm the CEO, I'm the sales manager, I'm the project manager, I'm the receptionist, I'm the accountant when needed. I'm a one-man team. Like me, the co-promoters also had the ability to take up any of these roles as required for that organization. So it's not about whether we are now 3 years old and therefore now we should move into the hierarchy and I should have vice presidents under me, vice presidents must have managers under them, they must have executives who should work. Size and scale of business and what we are handling would automatically determine then how these levels are starting to form.
My name is Anand. I'm from Kolkata. Actually, that I'm as per my experience, I have small experience. I studied most of the entrepreneurs and other things. I have found most of the partnership company has a problem after 4 years, 5 years actually. Most of 99%, most of the companies they started well and after 4 years they have a lot of problem actually. Because my experience, most of the only the sole corporation company they have a lot of good things actually. So what you feel about that? Because you can't get each people, it's the same kind of people and you can't, many people looking for co-founders. But after if I'm studying my experience, I'm studying after 4 or 5 years, they have some problem in this actually. Only few success actually, I study actually.
My experience has been there are 2 times when trouble happens between co-founders. 1, when the company is doing very badly. 2, when the company is doing very well. So the thing is, there will be trouble. I think the challenge is what all of us are again and again repeatedly saying is, how do you get people who have the right kind of complementarity with your skills, at the same time share your values. The problem I had with my co-founders was, as the company grew, we found that sometimes we were not acting as complementary, and sometimes we were actually having conflict because of the values being somewhat different. So, but I just asked, Ravi has handled even trade unions, so I'll add a twist to that. What happens when you have trade unions as well?
There are lots of issues related to trade unions, which geography often has a huge influence. But very strangely, if the trade union, and I am talking about, I'm talking about having Gurudas Das Gupta as your leader, having a CPM Politburo member who is in charge of CPM in the state as your union president. Irrespective of who it is, whether it's internal union or external union, trade unions typically have 6 to 10 people who are fronting. Even in a small organization, it's never one. by the nature of the trade union movement, they tend to have 3, 4, 5 people. If they see a certain level of straightforwardness in you and also decisiveness in you, by and large, you can do business with it. If they don't believe you're straightforward, then any agreement you sign is not going to last you life of the agreement. If they don't believe you're decisive, you're never going to do it. So, you need to be decisive. You need to be, they need to recognize, realize they're dealing with a straightforward person. So, that's the thing.
I think we'll have somebody at the back had a question, then I'll come to you. I think, Ravi, you're a leadership coach. You are today helping people become leaders. What will you probably say to them?
I will actually give you a live case. One of my clients, it's an enterprising person. He runs a business which is about 30-40 crores turnover. He's been running it for 15-20 years. He's built it. It's a nice business. But it's at a significant change point. He was exporting to a bulk buyer in US. And that guy was asking for a vanilla product. So he had set up a company where everybody knew what to do. They exported on time. They gave good quality products. They kept getting orders. Life was good. But over a period of time, the bulk buyer found that he could get something reasonably similar at substantially lower cost from China. So he moved out. Now this guy suddenly, the business changed. The big strength of the CEO or the founder of the business, extremely innovative guy, excellent understanding of what flies or what sells in the global market in this country. So he's come with innovative products. He now has a host of new customers, not one single big buyer in the US. For this product, Australia is a counter-cyclical market in the US. South America is a counter-cyclical market in the US. So he developed Australia and South America. He is now back to that 30 crore level. He is more profitable and he is having good time. His team had some very simple rules to work with earlier when they were producing a vanilla product. Today, they are producing higher priced products. If earlier on a unit they made $2 profit, today on a unit they are making $10 profit. But the numbers are much less. The variety is huge. So the business from low variety, large numbers has shifted to a high variety, small numbers business. Same production fellow, materials fellow, what they call the dispatch or export fellow. The three are no longer able to work. And the finance system has literally fallen apart. Because the finance guy just doesn't understand. What has happened is, when businesses change, when a business is running to a steady rhythm, some simple rules by trial and error come into place. And they are running happily. When a shift like this happens, you need new rules. And trying to manage with the earlier rules doesn't work. And this CEO or the owner or the founder who is very talented in terms of understanding market and understanding, doing innovative designs, he calls them and said, "You four are there, I am paying you very well. You have to solve this problem." So he has now become the official referee between the four. And nobody is getting anywhere. They have endless review meetings. They're reviewing progress every week, every 3 days, and then on telephone, still not getting anywhere. The key is, this is a moment for leadership. This calls for not working in a fixed way, but really sitting down and asking, how should we change the way we run manufacturing, materials, logistics and finance, so that with this new reality we can run our show better. Now, this is an opportunity from those 4 people to create at least 2 leaders. And if you are creating enough leaders, incidentally this is a challenge that my client and I are working on. But if you are creating enough leaders, that is your best safeguard against loss of a leader. So, have I answered your question? So, there are opportunities, change moments in a business which give you the opportunity to create leaders.
I will ask JK a separate question a little later, but go ahead with your question.
Yeah.
Anybody else with a question?
My name is Tirupati Arunam, Hero. My question is actually, the talent is the key success in today's technology world. So in my earlier companies also, the retention of talent was a real challenge actually, even for the biggies. So now, how as a startup, we need to use these retention mechanisms for retaining the talents. So ESOPs and other things actually, they will say that your company is even not even valued. So how do I believe? Okay, it's a piece of paper or it's a piece of stick. So what is the challenges, and you guys can share your experience and give us some inputs on that.
JK, you've gone through this route a couple of times at least.
It's an interesting question. I agree with you, therefore it's not about ESOPs. And I don't think there can be a financial reward component at that particular point in time to retain. That is, the retention cannot be based on a financial motivation. That's my first thing. I want to therefore say that opportunity is something, like you rightly said, when a company gets to be valued, then that has a meaning. Till then, that's not the way. It has to be that their belief in you, by you I mean the leadership world, their belief in the leadership, that this leadership can make sure that this company gets growth. If I stay here, the opportunities which will start to happen is real because I believe in the leadership. I think that is important. Then that connect which you have with all those key people who are your strength, because like you rightly said, whether it's technology, whether it's anything, there are a few people who are our strength. And that personal connect and their belief in you, that you, leadership, can really make sure that these opportunities can be made real, then I think it is.
I just want to ask you a follow-up question to that. To build a team, one very common thing seems to be to get to know others well, But in my personal view, I wish some lessons that I learned was perhaps know myself a lot more, much earlier. Because I realized a lot of weaknesses I had or deficiencies which could have been handled very differently. So you've gone through this you are helping a lot of individuals, through your coaching, and you've also been MD of a company. So to you, JK, what would you tell entrepreneurs? What are the ways by which they get to know themselves better? First and foremost, am I good enough to be an entrepreneur? Should I be stuck in this thing right now?
First is, I think, what Chandu said is very, very important. I would like to underline it 2-3 times. Before you can know another human being, you need to know yourself. After all, you're a human being. You have preferences, you have likes, you have dislikes. Some things make you happy, some things make you unhappy. If you are able to understand yourself, then you are able to understand that other human beings also have likes and dislikes. They also have preferences. And some of those likes may be same as yours. Some of them may not be the same as yours. They may be different. So I think the first stage of understanding the world is to understand yourself. The other point that you made right in the beginning was meeting others, interacting with others. How do you understand yourself better? It is only when you interact with others. And in interactions, people give you feedback. You can actually see sometimes you are enthusing people when you are talking to them. Some other times, the way you talk, you are putting people off. That's a feedback. That tells you when are you enthusing people, when are you putting off. And that's your learning ground. And if you can increase your behavioral patterns where enthuse people around you, I'm not saying make it zero, you can't become perfect, but significantly reduce your behavioral patterns where you put off people, then you make a great start. And this is the cycle, and that's why interacting with people is so important for your own development. And as you keep developing, things just keep getting better.
And JK, just to add to that, you as an entrepreneur, you know it's been many times it's a lonely journey. Nobody wants to tell the boss that he's a bum. So how do you make people, or how do you get that feedback in a manner which helps you grow?
My wife is at home and she reminds me that quite often.
I don't provide.
But I would rather, I think the lovely thing which Ravi shared in terms of aspect. So to me, I want to share another thing about pulling together, because it's all about team. And I read this nice article on what's called the sense of a goose. I don't know how many of you have read that. The sense of a goose. Goose. The sense of a goose. It says in winter, geese fly south. When they fly south, they are in a V formation. In a V formation, right at the head, there's one, then there's two. So it's a V formation. They found when it flies in a V formation, every bird is creating an uplift for the bird kind. And together, because of the V formation, they are able to reach their destination with 70% less effort. With 70% less effort, they are able to fly right to the South Pole. Therefore, if people are aligned in their goals, then there is an ability to reach much further with lesser effort. So in that article he's saying that 3-4 lessons he wants to tell us about the sense of the goose. So that's one. Next, he says whenever the bird in front gets tired, it rotates and it goes back in the wing, and the one at the wing comes to take that leadership position. Continuously they are changing, going from the first layer to the second to the last, so that when I'm in the last layer, with least effort I can still continue to be in the flock. I get enough rest, then I come take over the leadership, and this V formation keeps on going with birds, continuously changing their positions in that entire formation. If we can therefore have different people leading under different tight situations, that sometimes because of their skills, it gives the team that ability again to reach that destination, overcome those challenges, and still get re-energized to come back into the formation. That's the lesson number 2. Third, if anyone falls down, injury, shot somewhere, 2 of these birds fly down along with that bird which is injured, stay with that bird till it recovers, they join another flock, and then they go together. So how team people should support each other even at the time of difficulty, and make sure that you come out of difficulty to move forward. Birds at the back continuously keep honking, They say this encouragement is needed from people to support everybody out in front to continue doing their good work, and therefore that support encouragement from team members continuously is another great thing which happens. like if we have the sense of a goose, then there are lots of things that it can achieve in a long journey forward, all directed towards the same particular goal.
I will never again say silly goose. I think you had a question.
A small company starts to scale up, grows. Initially, in the early periods, people handle varied functions. As the company scales up, a bit more professional management has to be brought in. Can you give some insights into how this transition can be handled?
I have a question, return question. What is professional management? Please tell me.
Not the founding team. That's exactly what he's trying to say.
No, the reason I am raising this question is don't get taken in by feelings. The fact that I have an MBA doesn't make me necessarily a better manager. I'm not against MBAs, but so you can be professional without an education. You can be, you can also be have all the education and not be a professional. So these are two different issues. So, very interesting example is a startup in 1997. Started with, I think, either $2 or $5 million with their first round, or less actually, $2 million. They were young. They went and got hold of somebody who was then about 45, 46 and made him the CEO. I'm talking about Google. You take Facebook. Zuckerberg at some stage realized he needed an enrichment. He went and got hold of Sandberg. She is the one who actually takes most of the decisions. His page is now coming to CEO role only now, 10, 12 years. Very important as entrepreneur for you to know when you are ready for something, when you are not ready. What the Google founders did was they actually got themselves a full-time coach in enrichment. They had the humility to work under him, learn from him, and then one day say, enough, now you become chairman, I'm going to be the CEO. Right? There's nothing wrong with it. And so what is required, and I'm going back to this open mind. Just because I founded the company, I don't necessarily have to be a CEO. If I think Chandu can contribute more for the next 5 years as CEO, better to make him CEO and be under the company. Anyway, I own 100% of the shares, right? So we'll deal with Chandu in case he goes off. But if I trust Chandu, and I don't worry about my control so much, and I think he can contribute better to the CEO role, and I will learn working under him for 5 years or 10 years, it's a smart thing. Therefore, the open mind is an extremely critical success factor.
Thank you, sir, for the insight. But my question was also not only about the entrepreneur. When a small company is there, there are also other members, maybe the early stage employees there. So when the transition happens, and maybe the employees, as the company scales up, you may have to get more skills into the company. I was asking about the dynamics in terms of bringing in the numbers more and the entrepreneur. Maybe because in most cases the entrepreneur maybe are more interested about the company, growth of the company, and maybe more open. I'm talking about a general case.
Basically, let me get your question. The initial set of employees get white circle when the next set of fellows come.
Not only white circle, they may feel, you can say white circle in terms, but they may feel that space is being taken by somebody or in the field.
Another way they're getting kicked off.
இது வந்து நடக்கிறது வந்து நீங்க வந்து ஒரு ரயில்வே கம்பார்ட்மெண்ட்ல போய் நீங்க முதல்ல நம்ம ஒரு 3 பேர் ஒரு ஒரு அந்த கம்பார்ட்மெண்ட்ல உட்காரணும்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. 4வது ஆள் வந்து உட்கார்ந்தா கூட அவர் டிக்கெட் இருந்தா கூட நம்மளுக்கு பிடிக்காது, அவர் வராருன்னு. You may probably have some wisdom on how to.
You know, you used a very interesting term, early stage employees. How is early stage employee, in your view, different from employee? Very clearly you are seeing a difference in your mind, right? Whatever is the difference you are seeing in your mind, if you think they have contributed more than subsequent employees, you need to find a way, in all fairness, nothing more than that. If you think they have contributed so much more, you need to find a way of rewarding them that much. If you don't, then you are not being fair to yourself. Second, if there is a big disconnect, you think this early stage employee has contributed so much, and he thinks he has contributed so much, then either you are wrong or he is wrong. And I think it's good to part. There is a big difference of opinion.
Okay, I think we have reached 5:30. We took a little longer than the earlier panel, so I think this business of people is an ever-engaging topic. I think we can have a gossip column about entrepreneurs and their issues. I think it will be probably the most read column in our agony aunt gossip column. You know, wise uncle, whatever we want to call it. So we can have different variations of all of that. JK and Ravi, I think it's been a very engaging and very instructive, plus I hope an evening of learning for all of you. I really enjoyed myself today. Thank you so much for being part of this Lufthansa Thai mentoring Runaway to Success event. Thank you so much.